Yeah. Okay. Hola, buenas tardes. I'm Rusmin Lawin from Indonesia. I'm still in Spain from from mi hermano Torroba. We are eagles of real estate.
Remember that?
Yeah, we are the eagle of real estate. The eagle real estate is a platform, is a forum that we exchange information, experience, the best practice, and business network between Europe and Asia, especially in real estate development and also in Proptech. We are happy, we are proud to our two senior leaders and also our role model to be here, one from Barcelona, Spain, and another one from Jakarta, Indonesia. Both of them are my mentor. Okay, Juan Clos, Dr. Juan Clos, you can imagine that from a public health doctor, officer, become minister and become UN Habitat executive director. We must learn the recipe how to be successful figure like Mr. Dr. Juan Clos. Based in Spain, Juan Clos was UN executive director of UN Habitat 2010 until 2017, and Minister of Trade, Industry, and Tourism 2006-2008. And also have ever become mayor of the city. Imagine that a lot of achievement and also awards. There I couldn't tell you the story because it's a long list, and that maybe Mr. Clos will tell about his career, his achievement, and what his foreseen and expectations about the future in the cities. Because during pandemic, the landscape of the cities totally changed. We must reimagine the cities would look like. So that's why what the city would look like. That's why we invited Mr. Clos and Mr. Budiarsa Sastrawinata to be here. And our speakers, Mr. Sastrawinata is my mentor. He's the president of FIABCI Indonesia and also one of the one of prominent business leaders in Asia, because his project not only Indonesian. In Indonesia, they have Ciputra more than 100 projects within 31 cities, including Vietnam, including Cambodia and China. China is in Shenyang and Shanghai, if I'm not mistaken. So Mr. Budiarsa was a member of parliament. So we have two figures that was politicians, but now we retire and to be a good man. Not to be a good man. So my honorary council members of a lot of big organizations like REI, Real Estate Indonesia Developers Association, and also the listed companies associations, and also Chamber of Commerce of Indonesia, chairman of the Indonesian Vietnam Friendship Association, and a lot, and also president. The most important is president of one of the golf course that designed by Jack de Klaus in the Greater Jakarta. Okay, that's the introductions. After this, I would like to pass the floor to my other eagles, Ramon, Riera, Torroba, mi hermano, please.
Thank you very much, Rusmin, for your presentation. And I want to speak 2-3 minutes about the topic of this webinar today. And for me, it is a pleasure once again for me to present two exceptional people to you on this webinar. Two great professionals and experts in today's new city models, Juan Clos and Budiarsa Sastrawinata. Today, more than ever, having seen the effects of climate change, as we saw in Germany only last weekend, we need to have a plan to improve urban planning, mobility, and ultimately a plan for new cities that are more sustainable, more efficient, and more aligned with the planet. So today we have a great opportunity to hear the talks of Juan Clos as a politician and as a person who has held office at the United Nations, and his version of the current situation, as well as the opinion of Budiarsa Sastrawinata as a promoter and developer of major urban plans and therefore complicit in better urban planning. which takes care of the environment above all, that can recycle out this waste, that this will help us to have a cleaner planet. Remember, a place without a planet. There is not economy. Without a planet, there is not economy. This is my topic and my phrase. And like here in Spain, children are taught the three recycles in schools: reduce, recycle, and reuse. Please speak, Mr. Budiarsa, Mr. Juan Clos, and I listen sure and a good webinar. Thank you, Rusmin. Thank you, Juan Clos. Thank you, Budiarsa, for to be here again.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Gracias, Ramon. Then we can proceed to Mr. Budiarsa first, because Budiarsa has some presentations quite a bit long. Then after that, we ask our Mr. Clos perspective of thinking and criticism. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Allow me to.
Please, the mood. Okay.
Is the screen already on?
Yes.
Full screen, yeah. Okay. Well, thank you to our host, Ramon Riera Torroba from FIABCI Spain, and also Rusmin Lawin as our FIABCI board member. First, I would like to greet our world president. I noticed that you are also joining us, Mr. Jody Ribo, and also my fellow panelists, Dr. Juan Clos, president of FIABCI Spain, and FIABCI families, ladies and gentlemen. Greetings and saludos to you all. I'm Budiarsa Sastrawinata, president of FIABCI Indonesia and managing director of Ciputra Group. Ciputra Group is one of the largest real estate companies in Indonesia and was founded by the late Mr. Ciputra in 1981 and became publicly listed company in 1994. With 40 years of experience in the real estate industry, Ciputra Group has developed more than 100 projects spread across 33 cities in Indonesia and also overseas. We have developed large-scale projects ranging from hundreds to thousands of hectares in Indonesia and other countries in Asia, such as Vietnam, India, Cambodia, and China. As a real estate developer, I would like to share my experience on developing a future city in line with today's topic. From my point of view, there are 7 components future cities must meet. One is ecology, livability, mobility, inclusivity and social harmony, economy, digitalization, culture, and heritage. First, ecology. Lately, we are increasingly faced with serious ecological challenges as a result of climate change. The physical city development is closely related to the ecological problems. In line with the mandates of the Sustainable Development Goals, Ciputra Group has developed a platform called EcoCulture, which includes 6 main pillars: efficient management, energy efficiency, water conservation, waste management, ecosystem preservation, and also community resilience. In planning our projects, we focus on energy efficiency by applying sun path analysis and passive design process. With the abundance of sunlight in our tropical climate, we use solar water heaters as a source of hot water, solar panels as a source of renewable energy for some facilities, and energy efficient devices such as LED lights for street lighting. Today, we are also exploring the application of grid-tied solar system in our housing units. We have received the EDGE, or Excellence in Design for Greater Efficiency certification from IFC, which is a member of the World Bank Group, for a number of our projects, such as Citra Majaraya and Citra Raya Tangerang. This certification is our commitment to build environmentally friendly cities with at least 20% less energy consumption, 20% less usage water, and also at least 20% of less embodied energy in our materials in all our housing design and development products. Citra Towers in Kemayoran and Citra Lake Suites apartment in Citra Garden City, both in Jakarta, were among Ciputra's high-rise projects that have been awarded a certificate. In our large-scale development, where environmental impact is of paramount importance, water conservation is one of the essential components that must be scrutinized. To conserve water, we built artificial lakes that function as a drainage control to prevent flooding and as a reservoir for groundwater, which will be further processed to become clean water for our residents. Waste management is also an important aspect of the city. We process liquid waste through our sewage treatment plant. The water produced to water plants in the projects. We have also built a composting facility that turns organic waste into compost for fertilizer. For this reason, we provide guidance to our residents on how to sort their household waste. To create environment and maintain biodiversity, we build parks and green open spaces. We plant various trees to improve our air quality in the area and to expand the water catchment and absorption. We also educate the children to care more for our environment by having them participate in tree planting activities. The second important component is livability. The city is built for the society that requires a lot of things for their comfort. As consequences, the physical aspects such as facilities, urban infrastructure, and spatial planning, as well as non-physical aspects such as economic activities, education, practice of faith, recreation, sports, and social interaction must be available to accommodate these needs. We build commercial facilities and fresh traditional markets to allow our residents in their basic needs. For spiritual and recreational activities, we build places of worship, as well as sports and recreational facilities for the residents to develop their physical fitness. We build open spaces in the residential neighborhoods to accommodate safe and convenient community and family outdoor activities to promote social bonding. The well-being of senior citizens has also taken our attention in the city development. In one of our projects, we built a facility known as an elderly club named Citra Premier. The third component is mobility. Future cities must be planned in an integrated manner with accessibility network in regional planning that will connect the center of city development with its periphery and other areas. This will create a strong, sustainable transportation network system, which ultimately supports a sustainable regional economic system. For example, in Indonesia, Citra Garden is located in proximity to the international airport and connected to Outer Ring Road, whereas Citra Raya in Tangerang is connected to the city of Jakarta by toll road. Another example is our project in Hanoi, Vietnam, whose major road is connected with the Hanoi City Ring Roads and the Hanoi Metro Line, which make Hanoi City easily accessed all over that will become a sustainable transportation system. Transit-oriented development, or known as TOD, is one of our main project concepts since it provides ease of accessibility for our residents. Citra Majaraya is a good example of one such project, as it is connected to a commuter line network that connects the project to the Jakarta city center. In the future, all transportation modes within the project shall be integrated to a hub to ease the residents' movement. The movement of people is an essential component within a vibrant city. In every project, we pay close attention to accessibility and ease of movement. We provide the residents with means of transportation, such as public buses or other environmentally friendly and affordable transportation modes that connect the city with various facilities within and around the project. We do this from the early stages of the development process. Our fourth component is inclusivity and social harmony. Maintaining diversity in harmony is one of the most important factors for future cities. For example, in every project, we provide spaces and facilities for religious and spiritual activities. In our projects, we also build educational facilities that can be either secular or non-secular. Our projects offer a wide range of housing products categories that covers various economic and social levels to promote inclusivity and social harmony. We facilitate and organize routine community activities through our eco-culture program, such as group exercising or cycling, so that we can bring a sense of togetherness as one community. Social bonding activities will create a resilient community. Our fifth component is economy. It is another important component for the success of our future cities. Through large-scale development, we can achieve economies of scale that enables economic development and massive employment creation. Large-scale development projects potentially allow the development of large population, which is the basis for the growth of urban areas that are economically resilient and making such urban projects feasible and self-sustained. Another example for projects within the city, such as Ciputra Hanoi, the development vertically with a higher plot ratio to accommodate a larger number of units and people. The types of products developed in these projects include public apartments, large condominiums, townhouses, and villa-type landed house. Large-scale projects allow for cross-subsidies between various housing product classifications, which result in the availability of products that can be absorbed by different market segments at affordable prices. Thus, the social diversity created will make the community resilient. Within a large-scale development, various commercial and business facilities, such as hotels and shopping malls, can be built in an integrated manner to create synergy with the residential environment to foster sustainable economy. Commercial facilities such as office buildings, warehouses, logistics, and light industrial facilities also play an essential role in job creation. The sixth component is digital transformation. The digital revolution 4.0 will increasingly determine our future way of life and how we manage our cities. Understanding the importance of this development, we developed My Ciputra app as a platform to manage our large-scale projects. My Ciputra will connect our managers on duty with our residents to create a resilient future city. Pertaining My Ciputra app, our customer relationship management allows us to reach out to our residents. This is services and infrastructure such as payment of service charges, construction progress development, grievance mechanism, and facilities monitoring. Today, people are increasingly accustomed to digital marketing services. Our digital marketing platform was built as an alternative way for home buying. To complement that, our consumers can visit our projects virtually to see the development progress or to view housing units and communicate with the city call center alternatively. Our last but not least component is culture and heritage. Preserving local traditions and culture brought by the residents is necessary to build the image of the future city while keeping the traditional values that give an extraordinary and unique color to the city's own identity. We encourage the development of local innovation and creativity by organizing programs such as a sculpture competition to educate the residents to appreciate art and culture. This competition has been held 4 times in one of our projects. The projects we built have always been decorated with various artworks and sculptures from local artists. Some of the works displayed are the winners of our sculpture competition. Festivals, exhibitions, and competitions for art-related activities have adopted both local and traditional, as well as modern artworks. This helped cultivate the creativity of the residents in and around the project. Our future city can be livable by 1, focusing on ecological issues through environmentally sound development. 2, being efficient in energy consumption. 3, promoting inclusiveness and social harmony of diversified residents. And 4, creating a healthy and resilient community who maintain cultural values and tradition to grow sustainably. Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Yeah, perfecto. Gracias. Very good presentations. Ramon, want to say
Thank you,
something?
Mr. Budiarsa.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Budiarsa. It's a pleasure to listen to you and see what you have achieved in your company during the years, 100 years that your family has been running it all through Asia. I think that the future of city, from my point of view, is in line of what you have mentioned. But if we focus a little bit more in the Europe and America cities, we are affected not only by the COVID and the epidemic currently, but also we are going through a process of demographic change, which is very important. That now this demographic change, it's approaching a little bit in Asia, because in China you already have a rate of population growth which is smaller of what it used to be, and in other countries also. I don't know exactly in Indonesia, but we know that in quite a number of countries, as far as the countries are developing and they are becoming richer, the fertility rate is decreasing, and the great rate of growth of the population, it's slowing. What is still a global condition is that the urban population is growing very fast. If the 50% of the population was considered to be living in urban areas at the year 2000, now at 2020, this figure it's already near 60%. That means that the same rate of urban growth is happening in the world. The interesting question about why this is happening is that is happening without any kind of incentive. People move to the city for their own will and wish, and there's no a kind of policy to bring people to the cities. In fact, it's the contrary in many countries, where some public policies in quite a number of countries, they are trying to delaying the process of urbanization, because they consider that urbanization is complex, expensive, it can bring about some political issues, and therefore they would like to slow down the pace of urbanization. But what has changed in the last 30, 40 years is that the whole economy is entered a new phase, which is a phase which is a kind of new economic growth based on information and knowledge, more than in the traditional industrialization, which was the promoter or the engine of urban growth during the 19th and the good part of the 20th century. But at the end of the 20th century and at the beginning of this 21st century, industrialization is not as relevant in terms of urban growth and it used to be. And now the economic part or activity of most of the population in the urban areas is services. And then we are in a new phase where services is the economic sector that is driving the economic growth. And services is characterized because it's a duality in the service sphere, where you have high value services and low value service, added value services. You have this kind of new dichotomy between the service economy. The high added value services, it's nurturing a lot of new value coming from information technology and knowledge, and the low sector of services is the provider of many jobs and livability for quite a number of big share of the population. Therefore, we are confronting a new society, which it's becoming more similar in the East and in the West as ever has been in the past. Looking at the image that you have in your background, Mr. Budiarsa, we already see the modern city, which if you compare with what we see behind Ramon, it's nearly, is quite similar. We have this new, high added value economy that is provided this kind of urban life. The society, it's a little bit more complex than that, because in the society we are seeing different evolutions politically and socially, and some of them with their own risks. And I am referring to the risk of increasing of inequalities until a point that these inequalities is not going to be acceptable for the population. Then we need to also consider what is going to be the nature of our governance, which kind of democratic settlements or social contract we are going to build up between our citizens, etc. I mean, there are quite a number of new questions that the new society is posing us in order to consider our future. The United Nations is predicting that if things go well, as we hope that they are going to go well, the world population is going to grow a little bit more, but the rate of the total population of the planet is already slowing down. And we hope to stabilize the global population of the planet, human population, around 10 billion people, more or less. We are now nearing 8 billion. You know that the best predictor of population growth is development. With more development is less population growth. And this is quite important, especially for poor countries, because one of the issues that poor countries have is that they cannot cope with the possibility of reaching good development with a very high rate of population growth. And this is already, changing in many countries. It began in Japan, then in South Korea, and then in many other countries, and now even in China, where the population is decreasing its rate of growth, which is a positive. It's a positive sign if we wish to increase the well-being of all the population. In the developed world, this phenomenon is one step forward, and we are seeing quite a different scenario where the internal demographics, the natural demography of the population is clearly in recession, and then we stabilize our population with migrations, quite an important migrations, which are posing a new challenge to our cities, which is mainly the integration of migration of different cultures. And this is something that it's quite an important issue in quite a number of countries in the West. And this is affecting the nature of the physical planning of the cities, the master planning, and where this population is going to settle, which kind of policies we can provide in order to reach a better life for everybody, and how also we can reach a level of social compactness that allows for us to live in harmony, as you have mentioned several times, in a changing society. For example, in my public life, when I began as, and Rusmin has said, in Barcelona in the year 1979 as health officer, chief medical officer of Barcelona, our rate of foreign population in Barcelona was 2%, that it was 1980. In the year 2000, this was 10%, and now it's 20% of population being born outside the European Union. And this is a very, for us, it's a very demanding issue. And I think that in Japan, they have different policies, but they are also facing different complex decisions in order to how to manage the immigration, if it can be managed, and so on. We will have different questions in many parts of the world. In our country, that in Spain, that we are very near the African shore, we have a huge pressure of migration from Africa, and also this is something that needs to be addressed in order that we keep our share of solidarity at the same time that we maintain our good level of conviviality, which is another question. As far as the population and the wealth of the population is growing in a society, and more people has access to education and formation and information, both, everything, the social issues became more pressing, because the people is more educated about their own rights, and they begin to demand, of course, in a clear way, you know, and a given share of the well-being for everyone. And in the United Nations, we established the Sustainable Development Goals following the Millennium Development Goals, in order to offer some kind of tools of soft democracy in order to manage this kind of social evolutions in the developing societies, in the societies which are improving very fast their conditions, and where we need to keep the traditional values of our conviviality, and at the same time, we need to provide adequate answers to the social demands of the population. And in the case of the city, the city is a place where the people became very aware of their rights, because there's a lot of information, there's a lot of sharing of ideas, there's a lot of cultural sharing also. You have mentioned culture as something very important. Therefore, I think that we need to prepare ourselves for a future of the city where probably the people, the citizens, are going to be more demanding, and in order to sustain our harmony, we need to be more, we need to become providers of a better layout every day. And I've seen your interest in the greening of your neighborhoods, for example, or providing social amenities, providing green spaces, providing adequate quality housing, providing what the people is expecting of an improving society. In the West, we are in another phase since the stop of the demographic growth. We are in a kind of a little bit more pessimistic culture, where we feel that we have reached some kind of, you know, the top of what we can achieve, and that, you know, the people, it's resorting to political attitudes a little bit conservative or retrospective affirmation, this kind of evolution, which closeness of our society, We have seen, for example, the case of the Brexit in the UK, or the Trump presidency in the United States. And we also are seeing some peculiar political movements in Europe. I mean, we are living in an era of uncertainty, at the same time that we are living in the period with the most technological advancements. We are seeing the electric car evolving very fast. We are seeing, for example, the vaccinations in front of the COVID-19 being developed with a total new technology like the RIN in a very short period of time, which has surprised everybody. Then at the same time that we are seeing very good news, also we are feeling some kind of psychological exhaustion. And I think that this is very interesting because I think that in the collaboration between East and West, we can share a lot of these issues. And in the West, it's for us time to learn from the East in terms of how to achieve some kind of psychological attitude, which is more robust and more resilient to the new conditions of the human society. And I think that this is something that it would favor a new kind of dialogue, cultural dialogue between the East and the West. We are seeing also this dialogue evolving in the real estate, as I have mentioned before, where we have seen these very interesting big companies that are doing very good urban projects in many parts of Asia, and that they are gaining good confidence and respect from the markets and the population. I think that in the West, we also need to find out a new balance between our situation, our values, and our capabilities. The climate change and the environmental issue, it's also an issue that it has a double faces in the same coin. For one side, it's uniting many people in favor of a better future, but at the same time, it's creating quite an important divide on what are the measures to be addressed in order to cope for this better future. Because, at the same time that it's clearly a need to reduce the carbon use in our economy, the so-called decarbonization in our economy, at the same time, people is not ready to pay for for very expensive transformation processes. Therefore, we are, trapped in a difficult situation where we know more or less what we aim at, but we don't agree on what are the means to reach there. And that, by the way, it's another thing that affects urbanization, because urbanization it's responsible of 70% of our greenhouse gas emissions, mainly in transportation and in climate accommodation of buildings. And it's we need to use much more sustainable energy. But this is not enough. We need to reduce physically the emissions of CO2 and methane. And it requires a huge effort, beginning in the cities. You have mentioned new public transportation modalities, but public transportations cover a need of mobility, but also there are other needs like movement of goods and services, which are not easily addressed by public transportation. Goods and services, mainly goods, need to move anyway. It seems in a bigger rate than in the past. Therefore, we also need to extend the electrification of mobility to the distribution of goods, not only to the movement of people. And the technology is still not fully there, although there's quite a number of electric mobility for goods, but probably we will need to adapt to hydrogen mobility or other mobilities, which will impact again in the city. Therefore, the urbanization, both in the east and in the west, it's approaching in its nature. It's approaching, but it's approaching also in the characteristics of the urbanization between east and west. And I think that this justifies that the dialogue between us should be intensified. I think that FIABCI can play a very important role because FIABCI, as a participant in the ECOSOC committee of the United Nations, is a good platform to advocate for this dialogue. And we need to clearly, push this dialogue in the three aspects of sustainable development: environment, sustainability, social sustainability, and economic and financial sustainability. There's no point because if we don't integrate the three aspects, sustainability will not work. Then we need to convince the advocates, even the activists of the environmentalist movement, that we need to share the 3 points of view of sustainability, which is social, economic, and environmental. And this is a more complex kind of development than the one that we have seen until now. Until now, the paradigm of development was, first it was cheap energy, then it was infrastructures, then it was free markets. But, we have gone off these three periods, and we are seeing new issues, new problems that we need to address. Then we need to learn from your approach to life in the East, where you see always a crisis as an opportunity, and you see always life, it's a process of eternal learning, where you always will have new challenges that you will need always to learn how to address, that you never stop, learning new topics, issues, because there are always arising new challenges in the future of the society. This sense that life, it's self-evolving and long-lasting. It's a process that goes beyond our own generation. And therefore we need to be working in a clear long-term approach to what are the future issues of human society. Therefore, in this specific time of history where urbanization is growing so fast, and all the predictions say that in the next 20 or 30 years, we are continue to see urban growth to nearly reaching 70–75% of the total global population living in urban areas. That it's presenting a quite an important number of challenges. And of course, the environmental challenges are going to be there, the social challenges are going to be there, and the economic and financial challenges are going to be there. All of them, not only one or two or three, all of the three. And then we need to work together in order to address these issues. For example, providing affordable housing. Providing affordable housing, it's going to be a very clear social need in many countries as far as they are developing, as far as their people are asking for social housing or affordable housing. And you cannot have a developing society without people demanding for affordable housing. Then you cannot pretend to be a developing country and no need to provide social housing. This is an unrealistic, not existing human community. And therefore, that's something very important. As the way of governance is changing, also the way of urban governance is changing and is becoming more complex, and you became to listen to more people, and you need to grow in governance complexity. And this is not a bad sign. This is a sign of improvement, contrary to what many people think. Some kind of evolution in that direction is a good sign. It's a sign that the society is maturing and it's improving, but makes things more complex. Then training the people, educating the people is probably the first must that we need to guarantee in a well-being society. And I know that Indonesia, in that sense, is doing has done huge advances and has become even a role model. And therefore, all these issues are the ones that we can share. And also, we need in the West now some kind of optimism injection. we need some optimism, which I think that by now can come from the East. If not, we are risking in entering a kind of that downgoing spiral of pessimism. And this is why I hope very much of this dialogue with the East. And as president of FIABCI Spain, I would like to promote as far and as good as possible. I know that we have a lot of friends from Latin America that are present in this webinar, and I also would like to provide this kind of optimism message to them, because the situation in Latin America is not especially good, and Latin America has gone through quite a number of episodes of very fast expansion and then very, very strong retraction or recession. And I think that this is also a very complex situation, especially also with the COVID. We are seeing issues of COVID in quite a number of countries, like in Brazil or now in Colombia, several weeks ago in Chile, etc., where there are not good news, and therefore we need also a further injection of optimism for this part of the world. And I think that this optimism in the case of Latin America needs to come from the recovery of the development, the recovery of the pace of development, and to consider urbanization as a tool for development. When we had the Habitat 3 in Quito in 2016, we insisted a lot, especially addressed to Latin America, that urbanization should be seen in Latin America as a tool for development. But in order to convert urbanization as a tool for development, you need to introduce some changes, some change in the urbanization rules and regulations and policies and practices. Then I think that it's important that the Latin America governments and also the city governments, they are aware that urbanization is not a condemnation, is not a tragedy. It can become an asset or an opportunity, but to transform Latin America urbanization in an opportunity, there are some changes to be done in the rules and regulations, in the urban planning, and in the urban finances. I think that also here is where the East can provide, good practices to be studied and analyzed in order to apply to Latin America, and in order to confront the issue of suburbanization or favelas or slums or whatever is the issue there of urbanization. As some members, some countries are trying to do in a very, strong policy. But I think that the future of our city is going to be, fortunately, a bigger future because urbanization is growing. It's going to be, fortunately, more complex. We need more knowledge, and we need to dare to do some strategic change in the governance model in order to take advantage of the capacity of urbanization to provide development and growth. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clos. It's very visionary speech. I feel like I'm learning almost 5 years within this one hour. Okay, I can get master from you actually after this. Okay, Mr. Clos, please allow me to ask the first questions. You mentioned about the Indonesians, our government get benefit from urbanization. Yes, because the numbers of surveys saying that every growth of 1% of our population, it will create 1.7% growth of economy of Indonesia, while in China it's 3%, in Asia Pacific is 2.7%. So 1% growth will kick our 1.7% economic growth. And in Indonesia, by two predictions say that by 2045 we will reach 73% urbanization. Okay. My question is, because we know that urbanization creates economic growth because of it creates investment, it creates push government spending, it push household consumption. We know that. Okay, that's the best part. But the other negative part is of course environmental issue, the zero carbon issue, the green and sustainable issue is always there. So your advice to Indonesia, especially to Mr. Budiarsa, that develop I think at least 100,000 of houses every year. So what should we do? Should we keep allowing these urbanizations, but under control with a certain parameter of human habitat, or we just, as you say, try to delay the urbanizations, not allow people to get into this? Yeah.
Urbanization.
Thank you.
Urbanization is happening. People moving to the cities is happening because of the advantage of the city. In terms of everything, you know, the city is the current model of the most efficient model of living now in the planet. The city is more productive. The city is less costly in terms of per capita services, contrary to what many people think. And therefore, the city is more efficient than the other forms of life, and this is why the people go to the city. It's very clearly stated on what the new branch of economics, which is geographic economy. In geographic economy, they define the conurbations, the economies of proximity. The economies of proximity refer to the proximity of the factors of production. The factors of production, you will remember that it's capital, people, land, and information and knowledge. Then the proximity of the factors of production and the availability of those factors of production creates an emerging condition by which to produce a good or a services, you need less resources, contrary to what it's because the transaction cost is lower between the factors of production. Then lowering the transaction cost of mixing the factors of production increases the productivity of the economy in the city. This factor is estimated now by the geographic economists by an increase of productivity of 20%. 20%, which is imbatable. You know, you cannot, there's no other way to get an increased productivity of 20% than to try to compete against the city in another form of living, of life. You need to increase the productivity at least 20%. Then tell me which other means do you have to increase 20% your productivity? Then this is why your government is predicting that your urbanization is going to grow to 73%. Because it's natural in the current economy that this form of production, which we call urban life, continues to grow because it's extremely productivity. And of course, it generates what the economists call, I don't remember now the name, externalities, negative externalities. But if you balance the gains and the costs, the gains of the city outpace the costs of the city. And this is why, although the city is expensive, you know, the city produces more value than the value that it consumes. The city is an externalizator of value. For example, if we consider taxes to be an externalization of value, of course, all taxes, you know, are a value which is appropriated by the state. Therefore, you know, I always say that the city generates more value than the one it destroys.
Okay.
Or the mine, or the one that it costs. Otherwise, in human history, it would not have been cities. It's a fact of life. You don't need to be a theoretician economist to understand that. You know, why the city is successful? Well, because it's productive. And then, what is the future of the city? Well, we have problems. We have climate change problems. We have social problems. We have education problems. We have health problems. We have you know, you can list all the problems. But then we need to use the city to share the solution of these problems. But not the city alone, because most of these problems need to be solved by the government. This is why we have governments. Then we need to have social security. We need to have mechanism of rent distribution. We have to need safety policy. We need to have health policy. We need to have education policy, etc. And quite often, most of these public policies are per capita cost cheaper in the cities. Per capita cost of education is cheaper in the city than in the fields at the same level of quality. Do you catch the sense of what I am saying?
Yes.
It's not just lighting the street, by the way, which is much cheaper in the city than in the rural area, because in the rural area, if you have a long street and you don't have people, the per capita cost of lighting is very high.
Yes.
And in the street, the per capita cost of lighting the street is irrelevant. Or even the energy or whatever you provide per capita cost in the city when you have a lot of people, it's very low. In the other end of the issue is if you know your Minister of Finance, probably, where do you think that he goes to capture the taxes?
Cities.
They go to the city or they go to rural areas?
They go to city, of course. They go to Mr. Budiarsa first.
Well, I mean, yeah. Well, but it's very clear that the wealth is generated nowadays in the current modern economy in the city. The problem is that there are some countries that they have some natural resources that they tend to think that their wealth is related not to the factors of production, capital, labor, land, and information, but they think that their wealth comes from the mines or the fisheries or the fields. If you feel that your wealth comes from the oil or from your fisheries, then we have a problem, because then you need to invest in your oil and fisheries. But if you understand that your wealth comes from the people and the city, then your government needs to invest in what it produces wealth, not in what doesn't produce. You know, do you understand what I am aiming at? The public policy in the modern economy needs to care more about urban well-being, because if we don't care the urban well-being and we allow our cities to degenerate in a low-quality urbanization, then our cities are losing capacity to generate wealth. You know, the capacity of the city to generate wealth is related with the good management of the city. It is not guaranteed. For example, many Latin American cities, they don't produce the amount of wealth they should. And you say, why? Well, because the level of management of those cities are not at the standard of quality in order that allow the city to produce the wealth that it should. You know, if you invest in a big project, for example, these ones of Mr. Budiarsa, in Latin America, you will see some projects, big ones, sometimes done for political reasons or whatever. And you look at those projects and you ask yourself, in 20 years' time, this building here is going to have increased price or decreased price? If your answer is decreased price, you are not managing well the city. Even those buildings behind the image of Mr. Budiarsa, I don't know the price of those buildings, but if the city goes well, in 20 years' time, those buildings should have more value than today, for the sake of proximity agglomeration economy. Then we need to understand these new laws of urbanization, which are not self-evident, and in sometimes they are counterintuitive. This is why so many people don't understand the city. And they don't understand what is a good city and what needs to be done to transform an unproductive city or a destroying value city to a creative city, which is a huge effort, even politically. Sorry, I am extending too much.
Yeah,
No.
sorry,
No, but
we have three questions from the floor. The first one is, so after this pandemic, what do you think? Do you think that the people will vice versa, will doing the urbanizations, the people will stay off and living in the suburban area? I think no, because you answered just now. Because people think
Yes.
city is congested.
If you understand my argument, the answer
Yes.
is yes. Because if the city adds value, generates value by itself for economies of proximity, then this is not going to change with the pandemic.
Okay. Okay.
This is not going to change with the pandemic.
Yes.
not change the model.
But you need to understand that you need to understand that the city provides increased productivity to the economy. Yes. And until we don't have another model of production that increases the productivity by 20%,
yeah, correct,
the city will grow. And especially what is important is that the poor people is the one who is moving to the city, because the poor people is the one that wants to improve. Therefore, the poor people is not going to be afraid once the epidemic has gone. Who is going to move from the city out to the fields is the rich or the very rich people, because they can imagine a future where they can pay by themselves of the urban services in a rural settlement. If you can buy your safety, if you can buy your communications, if you can buy your education with your own family money, then you don't need the state. But if you are middle class, you need the city. The engine of the middle class of the city is the middle class and the popular classes, not the rich. The rich, they can choose wherever they want to live. And some days they decide to live in, you know, in Manhattan, in the Fifth Avenue or in Park Avenue. Other time they feel in Los Angeles, in Rodeo Street. And sometimes they live in whatever they, but for example, in Sweden and in Switzerland, they like to live in the very nice rural resorts.
Yeah, correct.
Thing there.
What about creating new cities? Instead of making the big city or metropolitan city become a megapolitan city, can we make the small city to become a bigger city?
That's an important issue that should be considered carefully, because the city is not only buildings. You know, we have had experiences, good and bad experiences of new towns. Many bad experiences, because if we consider that the city is only buildings, you can do very nice buildings, but if you don't understand that what produces the productivity, increased productivity is the mixtures, the adequate mixture of the factors of production, and in the factors of production you have labor and then human capital, then you need to understand that you need to have people living there more or less comfortably and happily. And in many new towns, especially the ones that were done in Europe after the Second World War, the architecture was very well done, but the amenities and the social life and the cultural life was not there. Even consider when Deng Xiaoping began the modernization of China, he began with the 5 special zones. The 5 special zones, they are cities now. Then how time has required a kind of adequate social life to emerge in Shenzhen, you know, compared to Guangzhou? You know, it's different. Then careful with new towns. For example, Brasilia as a new town has been not a very big success, because now in Brasilia there live 5 million people, but only 200,000 in what was the artistic Brasilia. They're careful with the new towns. I prefer medium-sized urban extensions of middle-sized cities if you want to balance a little bit the big, massive, big town. Then
what is the middle-sized city, Mr. Clos? The population, the size of population, middle size, 2 million?
Between 50,000 and 500,000. Okay,
that's the ideal city that we have to proceed, right?
These cities of 50,000 to 500,000, even the one that is 500,000, can grow 3 times, and if you do it well, you can reach a very good quality of life if you do things properly.
Yeah, if it also depends on the location. If it is not too far from the main city, you can consider as a satellite town. Then that would be workable, because like in one of our project, which is not too far off, is about 40 kilometers from Jakarta. Then we have built more than 25,000 units of houses, and with the now the occupation is close to 100,000.
But try to bring some economic activity there.
Oh yes, yes, of course.
Because if you can produce a mixed city with economic activity and amenities and equipments, then people, part of the people can go walking to work.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, this concept of living, the mixed city, the city where it has a good proportion. It's like a city is like an orchestra where you need all the instruments playing in symphony, in the same harmony, or like a good cocktail where you need to put the balance share of vodka or ice or whatever. And you can, then the good mixture, it's a quality of urbanization. And also, I dare to say that we need to add to that social mixture. Provide also affordable housing.
Yes.
And if it can be not in ghettos, also in a kind of mixture neighborhoods. Because in mixture social neighborhoods is where people get better educated.
Yeah, because usually when there is a new development, it will also take times to become what we call a self-contained city. Usually it starts with as a dormitory town where people still live there and then still commute to the main city, but then become the satellite town. Then become, when you can create employment, then it becomes a new city.
Yes, and then especially if you have new movers, they tend to be young and at the same age. And it tends to be a huge future problem. As soon as possible, you need to promote a kind of mixed age moving of people, not just middle-aged young couples, but try to bring all people, try to gather the full families with later generations, because one of the problems of the European new towns after the World War, it was that it was no gray haired people there, and the young mothers, they even needed special care to help them to have their kids, because they lost the culture of childbearing. Those are the typical problems of new towns. This is why always I advocate for city extensions. A city extension, a manageable city extension, it's for me always better than a new town. Because when you have a city extension, the city extension immediately captures the culture of the city. But if you have a totally new town, you never know which kind of culture is going to take roots there. You don't know it's going to be the mafia or it's going to be, consider the city as a cultural entity. And therefore, the soul of the city needs to be connected with the existing community whenever possible. Bring a tram or build a tram or something, connect your city extension with the center of the city, that people can go to the bar and the kids can go to all the schools or whatever. And then the community develops by itself. But new towns are always a little bit problematic if they are not connected I know quite a number of them. In Nigeria, Abuja, that was the new capital. I think in Malaysia, they are also the new capital, no? Artificial capital in the middle of the country, which nobody living there. I was there to see the government, and there's nobody living in this city yet. Well, I mentioned already Brasilia, but Astana, it's also in Tanzania. There have a new town. Now I am very interested of the evolution of a new capital in Egypt, which is built by the Chinese in a huge development that I don't know who is going to live there. Then even these model cities like Norman Foster built in the Middle East, it was in Emirates. Masdar is the name of this town. It's a very experimental exercise, but well, it's difficult. No, it's not easy. The new towns, whenever possible, please do a planet city extension. Planet city extension.
Then we have to go to Richard
Mr. Clos,
Branson.
Sorry, Rusmin. I want to ask Mr. Clos, which is the future of the big cities, of the megapolis? There are the future for these cities, for this type of cities?
They are going.
For example, Mexico, Moscow, etc., Rio de Janeiro, etc. Yes,
Tokyo is the biggest one. Probably is Tokyo or Chongqing in China. Well, they are going to rebuild themselves, trying to build up local communities, local social communities inside.
Oh, we lost Dr. Clos.
Oh yeah, what happened?
Must be the internet problem.
Do the speech
Yeah,
about the cities.
Very
the future of the cities. Yes,
visionary, with a good experience because he traveled a lot. He saw a lot of cities in the world.
I think so that all we have to learn, which is the best.
I think we have
for the planet.
We have to come and learn again about the economic development in the one city.
Can
you try to call Ramon, or maybe he's just too tired, and we can.
Wait a minute.
Yes. But he is very knowledgeable, surprisingly.
But Mr. Budiarsa, I have a question for you. I know that in your presentation, you are very worried about the recycling. Okay? The recycling. Okay? You are very worried, okay? But in Indonesia, there are a big industry of the recycling.
Yeah, it's growing.
Yes.
It's growing.
It's growing.
It's growing. Because people are now very, very environmental conscious.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, he's coming. He's coming.
He's coming? Okay. Ya está. No, que se le había anat a l'internet amb el Mr. Clos. Ja està. Vale? Merci. Adéu. It's coming?
I have to ask him about Mr. Campagnoli questions, Ramon. Enrique
Clos.
Campagnoli has questions.
I am here again.
Yeah, thank you. Welcome on board.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome.
I had a connection problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Well, where we were? Where are you now?
No, speaking about with Mr. Budiarsa about the recycling, because I think so. The recycling is very important topic.
Very good.
Okay, there are more questions, Rusmin?
Yes,
For
there's
Mr.
one
Clos?
question
Yeah.
from Campagnoli. Vanessa, okay.
Yeah.
Well, let Campagnoli ask first. Campagnoli, can you ask directly? Yes.
Okay, I told you before, it's a big honor to have Juan Clos with us. And Juan Clos signed with FIABCI in 2017 in Nairobi the memorandum of understanding by which FIABCI was engaged using CPI, City Prosperity Initiative of Human Habitat methodology, to monitor the urban progress in reaching sustainable development goals. Now, in last World Urban Forum 10 in Abu Dhabi, came out in the outputs that there was the idea to a peer-to-peer review of this methodology and to arrive to a common worldwide system to take measurements of the city sustainability. Do you know something about what can be the timing, when and if will be really possible to have a worldwide methodology to take measurements of urban sustainability? Recently, UNEC presented a new methodology and is using this probably to arrive at a common system will be the best, as has been proposed in Abu Dhabi outputs. Do you know something about?
I am a little bit skeptic of these kind of proposals because the United Nations, it's already very complex, and international politics, it's also very complex. And the relation of the cities with its governments, it's quite often politically complex also. Then not many member states of the United Nations, they want to be listed saying that this city or those cities or, you know, is not doing very well. Then I think that it's better to insist in a soft policy or soft diplomacy, and to do like we are doing in this seminar, you know, studies or comparisons, or to explain ideas that can be emulated, copied, and applied better than just to, you know, saying you have finger pointing, no? Because then many countries will not accept to participate in this game. And then we will lose the opportunity of sharing. I think that the best is to, you know, to consider your own policy. By the way, urbanization is very political. Do you agree with me? And if it's very political, and also in addition, is very related to local politics. No, you have the mic down, Mr. Enrique.
We have an experience with Taiwan. Taiwan was Taichung, the city of Taiwan, was ready to have the CPI PI evaluation when China requested to stop it. because Taiwan is like mainland China. Thanks very much for your reply.
Okay. Vanessa, go ahead.
Okay. Firstly, I'd like to thank Mr. Juan Clos and Mr. Budiarsa for their very enlightening and stimulating speeches. And I'd like to address my question to Mr. Juan Clos. Mr. Juan Clos, I mean, having, with all your expertise and everything, and with the understanding that FIABCI in its support to the United Nations, probably since 1996 with its consultative status, and with all the countries, most of the countries with India being a founder member, just needed to understand like how does FIABCI support the United Nations, because all these countries on the board of the United Nations, they must be having their own representatives. So how does FIABCI come in to all this? And then, because with a deep understanding of this, we could, try and rely on all the discussions and everything in each chapter, which will, where we can coordinate with the representatives of each chapter on the United Nations and, get some efficiency in all our discussions and, progress on all our thoughts, because it's such a good expertise from your side, which we should be able to apply it through, the FIABCI with the United Nations.
Well, I think that the ECOSOC, it has its main objective is development, therefore, and then quality of life and improvement of conditions of life for many people in the world. Therefore, we are advising the United Nations as FIABCI to improve the relationship between the real estate activity worldwide and the issues of social issues and well-being. This is very often, it's very frequent in the United Nations that it keeps conversations, open conversations with as many organizations possible in order to listen carefully to what the social life or the economical life has to say in order to help to qualify the decisions that the United Nations take in terms of development. It's a voluntary and non-profit relationship, non-compensation relationship. It's just based in good will and nothing else. And therefore, this it has problems, but also it has advantages. The problems is that, of course, you don't have resources to do special studies or this kind of thing. But the advantage is that you are free to say whatever you think that you should say.
Right.
You are not committed to subventions or to financing.
Right.
And I think that it would be interesting that FIABCI keeps helping the United Nations in a period now. Habitat is going through some financial difficulties, and I think that this is a problem, and it would be very interesting for FIABCI to maintain its support and its contribution to this effort of, as I said, maintaining this serious conversation about the real future of urbanization.
Yes, yes, thank you, because that is so important. I see so much of potential from all our FIABCI members with their expertise and knowledge, which I find maybe the representatives on each chapter to the United Nations, from the government levels, they may not have this expertise, what, so many members and like you and Mr. Budiarsa may be able to contribute. And that is where, sorry,
we are willing. I'm willing. I'm sure that Mr. Budiarsa also. But as I assume that you are not politically naive, and therefore
Exactly.
I'm sure that you understand that every country is
Yes.
very careful
Yes.
who represents the country.
Yes, very much.
When we are there talking about FIABCI, we are not representing our countries.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
this would be very dangerous for
Exactly.
the member
Exactly.
states.
Exactly.
And they take quite a, attention, quite a good attention to whom they provide the country responsibility.
Right. Because if United Nations could have FIABCI as an apex body, then through them to reach the governments and everything, that would, be advantageous with, sharing of knowledge and everything, of course, non-profit, but from the point of view of sharing and, creating a formula for all, country-wise, for whether environmental or different things, it would be so much, in progress with these times right now.
Yes, but all these programs, that the ones of UN Habitat or other similar agencies, or even the Sustainable Development Program, they are as good as you want to apply it in good faith and in good
Right.
zeal. There are some countries which are not especially interested on sustainable development, that they are also saying that they are doing fantastically well in
Right.
sustainable development. Then you need to be critic about who is saying what and for what purpose,
Right.
which is sometimes not self-evident.
Right. Noted. Thank you. Thank you so much. Noted.
Very well said, Dr. Clos.
Well, diplomacy, it requires that, eh?
Yes, very much.
You are a true diplomat.
Okay, so any question else? Yeah, we are. Thank you for your fruitful lecturer. I can say lecturer is not that, but lecturer. We would like to learn a lot from you further, especially in the economic development in one region or one city. It's very important for the decision maker like mayors. Okay, anything? Any other question? Ramon? Yes.
Only thank you very much, Mr. Clos, for your speaking. I think so that is one after and at this moment, because the future of the cities or the future of the planet, I think so that are in our hands. In our hands. Thank you very much for your speech, and I want to see you next time and to speak about the other topics very important for the planet and for the sustainability and for the energy efficient energy and also and for the new models of the urbanism, because I know that you are an expert, and I think so that it's very important that every time speak about, because the people need your counsels, your expertise. Thank you very much, Mr. Clos, and see you soon. Thank you very much also, Budiarsa.
And I would like to thank also Mr. Budiarsa for his presentation, because it has impressed me by the scope and relevance of your activities.
Yeah, for your information,
I think I need to contact you later. I need more advice on this new city development.
Yeah,
thank you very much. Thank you very much, Budiarsa.
Thank you.
Mr. Clos was in Surabaya 2016, Budiarsa.
Sorry?
Yeah, Mr. Clos was in Surabaya 2016.
Yes.
Okay, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, so
Why not?
that's
Why
why
not?
he
No, it's
knows
a good idea. Good idea, Rasmin. Good
Okay,
He
idea.
was there, yes.
yes.
Come back
But
later next year.
I also visited the slums of.
Bye-bye to everybody.
Lombok. No,
Bye-bye.
visit Lombok.
Very much.
Visit Lombok.
I visit the good part and the not so good part.
Okay, it's about time to
Okay.
come back.
Okay, whenever you like.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Rasmin.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Ramon,
Budiarsa,
gracias.
thank you very much. Budiarsa, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I-
Yeah.
Thank you.
Adios.
Thank you.
Thank you, my friends.
Hello.